Health Canada received Pfizer's submission on October 9th, 2020, and after a thorough, independent review of the evidence, Health Canada has determined that the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine meets the department's stringent safety, efficacy and quality requirements for use in Canada. Dr. Bogosh, I know you're still there. Your thoughts on the official announcement?
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Thorough, independent, looking at science and data. Like, this is exactly how the process needs to unfold. It's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. But of course, as we mentioned earlier, there's still a lot of unanswered questions, and there's still tremendous logistical issues, and the virus is still causing tremendous devastation in our country. There's still a lot of heavy lifting that needs to be done on multiple fronts. I love how you both put this earlier. It's not the beginning of the end, it's the end of the beginning. I couldn't agree with you more. But we now have a tool to protect ourselves that goes beyond physical distancing and masking. It's not going to replace those, but it's just another supplemental tool that will, in the end, save lives and will significantly contribute to our country returning back to how we remember it was in 2019.
To Avis's point, Dr. Bogosh, and we now have all four of you, or all three of you, on the screen. And did you think, Dr. Bogosh, it would happen this quickly? As Avis mentioned, sometimes it can take as long as 10 years to get a viable vaccine.
Yeah, I kind of did. I've been on the record saying that you're just watching this process unfold. We've had several conversations where, I think my direct line was it wouldn't be outlandish if vaccine programs started somewhere in the world in December of 2020, and it looks like that's what's happening. But again, I mean, it was pretty clear early on that there was some amazing progress on the vaccine front, that the clinical trials were not only successful, but also, there were so many of them with so many products. And there were some very creative approaches and smart approaches to developing a vaccine. And the results coming out of the early phases of clinical trials and the phase 2 clinical trials and the interim results of the phase 3 clinical trials were very promising. So it's, of course, not to take anything away from this event, and not to take this is monumental. But you could sort of see the success starting to unfold early on, at least in the middle part of the year. And it's just wonderful to watch this unfold. And quite frankly, anything could have happened, right? And it's science and medicine and public health, like anything can happen. It could have been derailed at so many points along the way if the vaccine wasn't working, or if this product wasn't working, or that product wasn't working. But it looks like they're working. And we're going to start to unroll these vaccine programs in Canada imminently. Like, it's really exciting. It's extremely exciting.
Avis, we have news that Health Canada is going to hold a press conference at noon. What will be some of the key questions asked of them?
Well, I believe they're going to want to know exactly what data they got, what reassured them, how they were able to contact the UK regulators to find out about these adverse reactions. What's interesting about what happened in the UK is that people with a history of allergic reactions were not part of the Pfizer trial, and yet here they were giving these vaccines to these healthcare workers who carried EpiPens. So it looks like there was a problem on the delivery end of that one. But I think that we'll want to know, to be sure about the safety. I think that also we'll want to know a little bit about how people in Canada will be tracking the side effects. We did a story last night going through the side effects as are reported both in the Pfizer paper and by people who have been through the clinical trial, and the transparency that's needed, because the people who have been through the trial are reporting, pain in the arm, fatigue, headaches. People need to be aware of what they're going to be, because transparency with a new vaccine like this is really important. And so how will we be tracking that sort of thing? And I think when the deliveries will start to happen, my guess is, based on what we're seeing in the United States, is that the planes will be in the air within 24 hours. So they will be landing here somewhere. Within the next day and then going out. Just to underscore one thing, though, this is just a preliminary shipment. Remember that Pfizer was contracted to deliver in January. And when I asked the lead vaccine representative from Pfizer Canada last night in an interview, how is it that we got the vaccine earlier? And she said, well, things just kind of worked out. So this is happening earlier. And for all the discussions that Canada's at the back of the line, Canada's number 2 in the world in approving this before the United States. So duly noted.
Duly noted. Stay right there, Avis. And Evan, I'm going to get to you in terms of the procurement issues and the political side of this, but we need to let Dr. Bogosh go. So I want to give him just the last word here on today's news and the announcement and your final thoughts, Dr. Bogosh.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to discuss this publicly, because I think I don't speak for everyone in healthcare, medicine, or science, but I'm pretty sure that the vast majority of us are extremely excited about something like this. And of course, I really think that this is such a monumental and exciting event. And certainly with access to these vaccines, we'll be able to save a lot of lives and alleviate a lot of suffering that this virus has caused Canadians. I still think that it's of the utmost importance to have open and honest and transparent conversations, to listen to people who have concerns and questions, and to address these in a respectful manner. And certainly there are going to be questions that arise. And of course, the medical, scientific, and public health community will be working our hardest to address and alleviate any concerns that people have. But of course, at the end of the day, these vaccines, they're not coming. They're here, and they're going to help.
I want to thank you on behalf of my colleagues here, and I'm sure on behalf of many, many Canadians who have been grateful for your expertise, your understanding, your way of expressing to us exactly what is going on, and your transparency as well, Dr. Bogosh. I know we'll continue to have conversations with you, but so glad you could be with us on this historic day. Thank you.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
Okay, you too. Evan, your thoughts?
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, Avis has done extraordinary reporting on this and getting the facts out and really focusing on the facts and the science. Her work getting this story today, Avis, has been astonishing. And I say that because there's so much political pressure. Politicians are going to claim, quote, victory about this. This is intimately tied up with the political fortunes of a lot of people, even though this is a fact-based science story. And what Avis and Dr. Bogosh are doing is, let's focus on the science here. This is fact-based. This is the process of Health Canada. And people's trust is absolutely contingent upon transparency. But let's just move to the politics of this. Justin Trudeau was bombarded for weeks about back of the line. The opposition said, what's going on? Then we finally got that first shipment of 249,000. Now, Avis just talked about that, of these Pfizer vaccines. I asked the Minister of Procurement, Anita Nand, how did that happen? Because on Sunday, the premiers didn't know until Sunday night that they were getting that shipment. General Hillier, who's in charge of the Ontario rollout, told me that he did not even hear that we're getting those until Monday morning, the very day that it was announced. So something changed on Sunday night. Obviously, Canada went to Pfizer and said, look, we are buying tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars of your vaccine. We cannot wait for mid-January while the UK and the United States are getting it. And they hived off 249,000. Anita Anand, the minister, told me they did not pay above a market rate. Now, you can read into that. Does that mean for the bulk purchase they paid less and they actually just maybe paid a premium? I don't think Canadians care, but they got it. The other issue is there will be, so Justin Trudeau can now politically inoculate himself against the criticism that were last. Today's health approval politically inoculates himself that we are at, the approval process. So Canada's in the game. Now it's 249,000 doses. There are 2 doses. So you're getting about 125,000 people to get this. That's important, and it's going to be life-saving, and it's a start. It's a tiny amount. And as Avis said, and the ministers have told me, this will roll in incrementally from December, January, March. They are coming. It's not in a big bulk buy. It's coming in little doses, little shipments, steadily. And then the question now will move to the political timelines. The worst case scenario, I've been told by a number of people, Jen, and I hope people appreciate it, is that, we'll get many people done by September, October, November of 2021. But that's a long time away. Mm-hmm. If other vaccines like Moderna or AstraZeneca or even Johnson & Johnson come online, the timeline can be accelerated, as this Pfizer one was just accelerated by 4 weeks. So there is a hope that this could be accelerated, but for now, that's pure speculation. We only know the facts, and the facts are 249,000. They will not come all as a bulk. They're coming in shipments, and they will arrive, as Avis rightly said. The planes are going to be heating up on the tarmac, and within 48 hours, Canada will get one of those photo ops where someone is getting a jab in the arm. Yeah. That person will be historic.
As we saw in the UK, Evan, with the 91-year-old grandmother, what a day. I want to bring in Dr. Abdu Shakari, infectious disease specialist. Dr. Shakari, first, your reaction today. It's been a long haul for you and so many of your colleagues.
Well, I echo what Dr. Bogosh is saying. This is a really monumental, exciting, landmark moment in our response to the pandemic. I think many of us are pleasantly surprised that Canada has been able to procure approval for the vaccine at this early stage of the game. But I have confidence that Health Canada has done this with their due diligence in mind. And I think now it's up to us to make sure that the logistical strategy is executed appropriately. And it's also important for the rest of us to pause and remember that this is the beginning. Excuse me. This is the beginning. Having a little bit of technical difficulty here. This is the beginning of still a very long journey in terms of making sure that we still adhere to public health measures.
Let me ask you about the challenges of this particular vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine. We do know it is somewhat temperamental in terms of it needs a certain temperature to survive. So explain to us how that will work when it comes to the rollout.
Yeah, the real benefit here of having multiple vaccine candidates is that we don't have to rely on a single vaccine to supply the Canadian public at large. Obviously, a lot was made out of the allergic reaction in the UK. We're going to hear more issues with respect to people who don't tolerate one vaccine more than another. And so this is why it's important that we're going to have to look at multiple vaccine candidates. We can't rely on a single one. The storage issue is going to be one that's going to limit the utility of the Pfizer vaccine across Canada. The Moderna vaccine doesn't share that problem. We've got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that hopefully will be useful, and it's a single-dose vaccine. We're going to need all of these vaccines, ideally, so that we find a niche for different patient populations across Canada and hopefully accelerate the timeline towards herd immunity here.
Our medical specialist, Avis Favreau, joining me now. You've been working tirelessly on this story as well. Were you anticipating the announcement today, Avis, and what would have led you to believe that to be so?
Well, we did know that it was coming out. Yeah, we did know that it was coming out because I think that they've been preparing for it. I think the timing is kind of interesting, Jennifer, because tomorrow and Friday, the U.S. is meeting to discuss approval of this very vaccine. So if Canada approves it today, we're second in the world. So I think there's a little bit of political timing on it. But on the other hand, as has been mentioned, Health Canada has been looking at the data for a while, and obviously it looks good. I mean, we like to trust our Canadian regulators that they're going to do this properly and that it isn't rushed in the sense of the approval. But we are going to have to watch how it rolls out. You don't want little problems like what's happened in the UK, because that will, delay or set back a little bit of the vaccine acceptance on this one. So these things will be important for Health Canada to outline. I also would like to hear if they're going to enact something called a vaccine compensation program. In many countries, they have a way of compensating people who do suffer rare side effects. And Quebec has it, the rest of Canada does not. That would be one question. And the other question that I would have for Health Canada is there going to be a way of tracking people who get the first dose and when they come back for the second dose? Is there a way of making sure that they are monitored? Because this isn't just one jab and off you go.
Right.
With Pfizer and with Moderna, there are two 21, 28 days apart. So you need to make sure they get that second dose and that they're followed. So how will they address that? I'd like to see the answer.
Evan, I'm going to get to you in a moment, but I need to let Dr. Sharkawi go shortly. So I just want to follow up now that we have the Pfizer approval. Dr. Sharkawi, when we look at the other vaccines, Moderna, where are we on that vaccine in terms of that coming closer to approval?
Well, I would suspect, given the fact that the technology is essentially almost identical between the two vaccines, that we can probably expect that there would be approval from Health Canada relatively soon. I think it's become abundantly clear that we can't rely on any one particular vaccine to supply the Canadian public, both from a logistical standpoint and potentially from a safety standpoint as well. So I'd be very surprised if it took any length of time for Moderna to be approved. I expect that to happen hopefully before Christmas.
Amazing. Dr. Abdi Sharkawi, infectious disease specialist, thank you as well for your time, and we'll continue to speak over the next few days. Evan, when we talk about, as Avis referenced, the administration and clinical challenges of maintaining and rolling out a vaccine like the one that has been approved today, it really does come down to the last mile that is the trickiest, getting it off the planes and to the people who need it most. What does the government have to focus on now that we have an approved vaccine?
Well, let me just pick up what Avis said about tracking, because I've been asking some of the ministers about that for a number of days, and I spoke to the Minister of Innovation, Navdeep Bains, and the Minister of Procurement about this over the last number of days, which is, how do you make sure that when you give a Canadian, one of these precious jabs, as Avis just said, 28 days later, they've got to get the second one. Mm-hmm. That brings it up to the 95% efficacy rate. Now, the first jab, the good news is, the first jab of the Pfizer is proving to be quite effective in and of itself, but not nearly as effective as two. In the UK, they've got a little card. So you're going around with a card saying, I've got the jab and I got to get the second jab. But I've been asking the ministers, will there be a digital tracking? So, for example, Health Canada says, okay, Mrs. X or Ms. Y, we've given you the vaccine. We will be contacting you in 26 days to remind you to please come and get that second vaccine, that second shot. Navdeep Bains says they are working on some kind of tracking system. I wonder if Health Canada will talk about that at the technical briefing at 1 p.m. Eastern time today, because we don't know the details of that. He did say that there are genuine privacy concerns about that. So they've got to work within the privacy, but they've got to make sure that the vaccine is tracked so you get the two doses. Almost every medical professional will say compliance is always an issue. So you know this, when people get an antibiotic and say, please take these 14 pills, one a day, people feel better after 6 days. They don't complete their cycle. So medical compliance is an issue here, and people have to come back for that second dose. So how will they track that? I just want to also say one thing, because there's a lot of questions people keep asking us, is this going to be mandatory? No. There is no politician in Canada that has said it's going to be. Health Canada has not said that. The Prime Minister has not said that. The premiers have not said that. The chief medical officers have not said that. I don't know why this keeps coming up. It is not an issue. It is going to be voluntary. Now, I have kids, and we all know what it's like when you send your kids to school and they can't go unless they've had certain vaccines. There are going to be places where they're going to say you're going to have to get a vaccine. Where that will work for COVID, we don't know. But that's not an issue. That's why what Avis was saying and what Dr. Sharkawi and Dr. Bogosh are saying, trust, facts, transparency, and the science is critical. So the messaging at 1 p.m. to make sure that people do take it, and then how they're tracked, is going to be a big political and logistical challenge for this government.
Okay, let me just ask you both to pause, because I want to recap our viewers who may just be tuning in on this breaking news. Pfizer and Health Canada announcing that thanks to advances in science and technology and an unprecedented level of global cooperation, today Canada reached a critical milestone in its fight against COVID-19 with the authorization of the first COVID-19 vaccine. That is the official Health Canada press release. We also have a clip from Pfizer. Let's play that.
This is certainly a historic moment for science and for Canadians. You can see from what's happening today that we're definitely not at the back of the line. We're actually at the front of the line. So in terms of the approvals of the vaccines and the rollout of the vaccines, I think we can be very content as to how Canada has done.